Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speak Up Monday. Today, I'm your host, Bhavna Perihar, and we're coming to you live from tropical nomad Canggu in beautiful Bali, Indonesia. So for those of you joining us for the first time, Speak Up Monday is all about motivation and inspiration. We believe that people inspire people, and that the more conversations we have, the more perspective we gain, and thus the more compassionate we become. We have over 1 million views, and we are the #1 talk show for social impact and entrepreneurs. And today, we dive into just that, a deep personal story of social impact with the founder of Nicholas Kiman here from Ragam Foundation. And I'm so honored to be sharing the stage with you as someone who doesn't share a story often, but is a story worth sharing. Now, Ragam, for all of you who may or may not know, has been established since October 2021, and they're a deeply rooted charity doing incredible initiatives in and around Bali. One of the core initiatives is their community kitchen, but other than that, they also do a New Life community garden. They help children with disabilities, water filtration, and so much more. So today, before we dive in, I would like to introduce our guest. Now, a little bit about Nick is, while he may look and sound like a foreigner, his soul is very much Indonesian. Born to Dutch parents in Kalimantan, Indonesia, Nick has been straddling the two worlds of both the foreign world and the local world, and a deep-rooted desire to give back was created. Now, when I've had the privilege of, alongside Nick, helping in the kitchen, going on the distributions, seeing the kids, 3 words come to mind: uplift, empower, and improve. And to share more of that story and Ragam's story, we'd be remiss not knowing Nick's personal story as someone who has committed his life and his purpose of service along with his core team, some of who we have here today. More to come on that. So please welcome Nick.
Thank you everyone so much for having me here tonight. I wasn't expecting this big of a turnout, so it really warms my heart to see everyone here, especially lots of familiar faces. I don't tend to, like Bhavna said, talk about myself too much. It's not really about me. This whole foundation is really about connecting people, much as Speak Up Monday is about connecting, about diversity, about celebrating human interaction. That's also the core principles of Ragam. I'm here to steer the ship, but I can't do it without everyone else joining me. And I'm just incredibly blessed and honored to have been able to do this for the last 3 years. But also I'm very aware that it's only possible due to all the collaborations, all the people giving, all the people joining us over these years. And every day I wake up energized, wanting to do more. And I'm always feeling very blessed in terms of the community we have.
So on that, I feel like you do wake up now feeling energized, but there were many moments where you didn't feel that way, and you were deciding sort of where you were making decisions for your purpose. So if you could sort of take us back to your childhood, we talked about the theme of two worlds, not only the two worlds that exist here on the island, but the two worlds that existed in your upbringing. Yeah. And maybe take us back to growing up, maybe that turning point or what you witnessed growing up in school and with those around you.
Sure. So before I go back, I'll just kind of explain as to what Ragam is all about as well, which is connecting the two realities that exist on this island. I feel like this island is paradise for so many of us, but so many others are kind of lost by the wayside. And these are the people who are, making paradise for the rest of us. This kind of duality of realities has been part of my life since, I was born, basically. I was born in a small village in the middle of nowhere in Kalimantan, super white, but everyone thought I was an albino Indonesian kid. Growing up, I never really, I don't know, it sounds very cliche, but seeing skin color was never really part of how I was raised. In terms of, I had kampung friends, which are village friends in the village I grew up in. When I started going to international schools, it was always this going from one world to the other. So going to international schools where I had all my foreign friends who I came from foreign countries, and then going home and hanging out with my friends from the kampung, from the village. Birthday parties would be bringing kids from the international school and from the village, and we would, one party I will always remember, we would blow darts into balloons because it's a very common thing in Kalimantan, blow darts. Not poisoned or anything, it's just little toothpicks. But that kind of theme progressed throughout my entire life, where I would go to an international school, very much aware of, I would say, the privileges and the things that I have that my friends that I would hang out with after school that came from more local, humble backgrounds didn't have. So this constant theme kept playing in my head as I grew up, and I think that kind of instilled this innate desire to want to do something about it as I grew older. For the longest time, I also kind of resented the way I looked, in the sense that I was treated with far more respect than my friends who were local, which I didn't deserve. I wasn't doing anything more than them. I wasn't doing anything different to them. I was just a white kid, and I was being called Mister, while they were, not being shown any respect at all in some cases, right? This kind of amplified as I moved to Bali. From Bali, I really became more aware about kind of the disparity in how I was being treated and how I felt inside. This is by no means me complaining about it or anything, but it's just I was very consciously aware of it. So given the way I grew up, I always felt, local. I didn't feel like I was the bule here. I didn't feel like an expat here. I didn't feel like I was better or deserved more than anyone. But in Bali, if you're a white kid or person or a foreigner in general, you get called Mister, you get called boss, you get treated in a way that doesn't really reflect, or didn't really reflect to me, the respect that I deserved, because I didn't do anything to deserve being called this status, which how do you say, the way I grew up, this was only reserved for people who are older, right? And now people who are older than me were calling me an 11-year-old, prepubescent, voice not broken, chubby kid, boss, sir, and mister. So it really kind of perplexed the way, I felt. And tried a long time to get more tanned in order to fit in. It's kind of a joke, but also kind of the truth. Used lots of different tanning oils and really, really tried. But this is a lifelong tan I'm working on. It doesn't get much more than this. I'm red and white on the outside, very patriotic. Indonesian flag is red and white. I kind of feel like I lost.
No, it's fine. So the thing that keeps coming up as you're talking is you felt this innate desire to give and to support. And I know if we fast forward decades later, and when you work with Scholars of Sustenance during the pandemic, you were running community kitchens, volunteer outreach, and then this also laid the groundwork for Ragam in terms of bridging that gap between those who want to give and those who need support. But often in times that we've had guests up here and people I've interacted with, that desire to create such meaningful, lasting change is usually born from a really low moment. And I know that, prior to coming to Bali, you were also in Australia, going to school there. And if you could maybe take us on a bit of a journey in terms of what those moments were for you that really woke you up.
So I kind of touched on, I guess, the core foundations as to why this foundation is something that I want to set up. But that doesn't mean that I was always consciously thinking about it throughout the entire time since I was a kid until now. I had moments where I was very lost, very confused. Those moments were kind of brought about following the heart, which is still something I advise people to do, and I've done my entire life. But the heart brings you to places where the mind goes, what the fuck? Sorry. And I've definitely had those moments. After graduating in Australia with a business degree, I went into kitchens because it's what I love to do. Cooking is my passion, mainly because I love to eat. But this was already something that didn't make sense, and I got judged a lot by previous professors and students and stuff for why do you do a business degree if you're gonna jump into kitchens and cook for kids or go to food trucks and travel around Australia? Then I guess the low point that Bafna was talking about is I kind of lost my way in Australia, in the sense that in Indonesia I was always this sunny kid who had a lot of friends, brought people together, was just always trying to, do the right thing. Sounds very cheesy, but that's kind of how I was. And then in Australia, it seemed like blinders were going on, if that makes sense. So I didn't really start to look and care about the people around me, about the community that was living alongside me. I kind of lost that feeling of collectivist society that I grew up with here. And in a city like Sydney, I feel like I had a wonderful time there, but I kind of felt like I was losing myself, drowning myself in work, in bad habits, until I finally reached a point where the chef knife that I used every day for work was pressed against my neck. Very close to, I don't know. I don't think I was ever gonna actually do it, but it snapped me awake. Actually, the person's voice who I heard was my mom's in that moment. I don't think I ever told her this. But I knew I had to get out, and I knew I had to come back to Indonesia to find my roots again. As someone who grew up here looking like this and always being treated as a foreigner in the sense that I've always had kitas my entire life, one wrong move and I can get kicked out and deported, if you will, right? It kind of doesn't feel like you ever belong anywhere. And that sense of belonging is something that I still... It's better now, but chase to a certain extent. Until I become properly Indonesian here. I'm married now with my beautiful wife, who's also busy. There she is. But still, like before that, this sense of like, where do I belong was a very big part of, I don't know, me searching, me trying to find something, right? So after I came back from Australia, I came here, and what really reignited that kind of passion that I found when I was, I guess, growing up here is I went back to my birth town, Sanggau. I hadn't been there in 20 years. Went back and I felt like I was home, even though I hadn't been there in 2 decades, even though the people there I hadn't met in 2 decades. One lady that helped kind of raise me said, "Oh my God, Nick, you're back!" And I'm like, I don't know who you are, because I left when I was 3. She was like, "You've grown up so much." I'm like, yeah, it's been 20 years. So that whole trip was just this heartwarming experience about like, okay, I'm home. And yeah, I want to do something. And what led to Ragam is, I guess, the catalyst that led many people to change their life, which is COVID. COVID happened, I lost a temporary travel agent job that I had, and then I started working at this other charity called Scholars of Sustenance, running kitchens, learning a lot, doing a lot, seeing a lot. And I guess we can go into detail.
Yeah, so first I just want to acknowledge and thank you for allowing us into a very deep personal moment. And as you shared about sort of the chef's knife to your neck, and to acknowledge your mom's, role in terms of like her pulling you out of it in a beautiful spiritual way. And one of the reasons, just a little anecdote, that I really wanted Nick here is, so I've been working on Nick for a little while now. In terms of I feel like I have such a privilege that I get to meet such incredible humans being in Bali. And so many times I hear stories and I'm just thinking, oh, I wish everyone could hear this story. And I think with so many initiatives and, many do-gooders that do exist, a lot of times we don't know the person or the human or the humans, in this case, behind it. And the more we can connect with that person's mission, the more we connect with the mission itself. And, Nick, as you can already hear, is quite humble, and as one would hope. But I think what comes across more is that there is this ongoing search and mission of belonging, creating community. So it's not just about delivering initiatives that impact, but it's about how to bring people together to deliver on that, how to work with locals, how to bring in foreigners in a way that is safe and creating lasting change. And, when we've had our chats at the kitchen, I always am like, oh, everyone should hear this. You need to tell them this. So part of this is selfish on my part, because got him here and wanted, opportunity for him and his team and everyone here to really hear about him. And, we talk now about sort of the rediscovery of your roots and what started you off here. But I think what we often find, especially, for those of us who are from North America, Europe, is there are a lot of these large NGO charities here. They're known as yayasans. But a lot of times you don't really know exactly where the money is going and where the effort is going. And in ones that work here, there's also a misconception at times that if it is a foundation that is registered in Indonesia, perhaps foreigners and others can't get involved and can't give back. And especially in a place like Bali, which is more, Indonesia is a country, Bali is a province. People tend to think that Bali is a city and it's Canggu and it's like a Cancun of Mexico. It is not. It is so much more than that. And in being able to come to the kitchen and sort of peel back the curtain, as part of the theme for tonight's show, is showing those who aren't seen, who are hidden away, that a lot of us who come through this island just choose not to see because it's uncomfortable. And I think allowing you and the foundation to give us all an opportunity to actually peel back those layers and see where we can give is hugely important, and not all places allow for that. So one of the things that, I do want us to dive into is some of those grim realities, and how your experience in seeing these grim realities here started shaping what is now Ragam.
Okay. Well, first I'm going to say that none of what I'm going to talk about is meant to insult or make people feel bad about themselves, in the sense that when I started doing this work, I felt incredibly guilty for everything that I had. And this was during COVID, where, well, things were really bad and situations were really grim for many people here. Ragam is based on the experiences that I had during COVID and during the time with the previous organization I worked with. We set up a first kitchen and we were doing like 200 meals. First time we did 200 meals, I was very excited. I went to a location and distributed, and there were like 300 more faces looking at me going, "Do you have more food?" I went home, didn't sleep, was absolutely distraught, and this was kind of the reality for the first few months until we managed to crank it up to about 1,000 meals per day. This turned into 4 kitchens. This turned into about 3,000 meals every day across the 4 kitchens. But even then, it never felt like I was doing enough, because COVID was, like I said, hard. For those of you who might have been here during this time, it was, you can imagine an island that is reliant 85%, give or take, on tourism. Once that money flow disappears, then what? People might have savings for 6 months, it lasted for 2 years. So those 2 people who had savings for that long also ended up falling in that bracket of need. The people who are living day to day, well, they were quite literally starving. So seeing this firsthand and kind of finding my roots this way, in the sense of I finally got a chance to do charity work, which is something I always wanted to do. I finally got a chance to try and connect people from the 2 worlds like I had always done throughout my childhood, but in a way that delivers impact. But then I was faced with this, almost impossible seeming wall of, well, who do I help? How do I help? What can I do more in order to provide that help, right? So as much as the experience at SOS was meaningful and impactful, I also realized that I wanted to do more than just food, which is why I started Ragam. Ragam really means diversity in Indonesian, so the word itself means diversity. And this is the reason I chose this word, is to reflect everything about this island, about myself, about the people who are watching here today. That's what it's all about, right? It's all about celebrating solidarity through diversity. It's all about impacting people by coming together as, people. And one of the things I want to do with Ragam, again, is not to make people feel bad about what you have and what others don't, but just to make people aware, this island is paradise. We're sitting in a beautiful spot. Most of us don't have to worry about what to eat or where to eat or where our next meal is going to come from. But for many others that are living on this island, that's a daily question mark. What am I going to eat? Where am I going to get the money from in order to eat? Right? Those are questions that I feel like people who are living on an island that others call paradise should not have. On an island where there's plenty of money to go around, these kind of problems should not exist. The reason why I focus on food and why food is one of the foremost focal points of what we do is because we can't function without food. You can't hope to educate a kid who's hungry. You can't hope to empower a woman who's hungry. You can't hope to make people care about the environment at all levels of the economy if they're thinking about, well, I need to feed my kids today and tomorrow, so why should I listen about all this plastic business? This is priority number 1. Once you've fed this, then you can talk to this. Then you can do something about this, but this is where it starts. Try to do anything, exercise, work. I was going to say make love. I don't know why that popped into my mind. On an empty stomach. It just doesn't work. So this is our main mission, right? We're trying to feed as many people consistently. We have lots of other programs that's, again, reflected into the name, Ragam, diversity. Our whole goal is to make people feel like they can be a part of it. This is not my charity. It's a charity as I started, but it's charity for anyone to be able to put their fingerprint on, to be a part of, in order to generate impact, right? It's hopefully a catalyst where people can come and, I don't know, just give back a little bit or learn a little bit about the island where you might have been already for the last 3 years as an expat. But we tend to, I'll wrap up by saying, we tend to live in bubbles, you know? We tend to, even if you think you're very aware of what's going on around you, more often than not, you have blinders on. I have blinders on and I do this work in the sense that, okay, one of the communities we support are trash collectors, right? The men who you see in these massive trash trucks driving around Bali collecting things. There's 5 tons of trash that goes to this one dump site every day. I go there often. I help the community there often. We have a garden there that's there to educate the kids. But even during my day-to-day, if I'm on my motorbike and there's a trash truck in front of me, I'm not thinking, oh my god, these guys are working so hard. My thoughts are, fuck, I have to get around this trash truck because it smells and the smoke is so intense, right? So these are thoughts that are completely normal, but what I'm trying to say is, like, if we're aware of that other side a little bit more, and if we're aware that we can do just a little thing in order to bring proper balance to an island that's all about balance, all about spirituality, all about togetherness. Everyone comes here to celebrate or to escape something in their lives, right? Well, why not share that happiness and that sense of peace that we can get from this beautiful place to those who actually help make it beautiful and who are actually not benefiting from that beauty themselves?
So one of the things I want to touch on is, before we dive into the initiatives themselves and a little bit about how those work and to address some of the honest questions, is there's something you had said before about how you were making decisions from a place that made no sense, and now you make decisions from your heart. And that the mantras that you have for Ragam sort of drive everything you do and are kind of your overarching strategy that you come back to remind yourself. Because as you are and your team is building out Ragam, as we talked about, it's like almost like a yayasan startup, right? You're trying to be sustainable. The funds that come in from donors get earmarked for certain things, or they're to actually, for the ingredients in the meals. And therefore, there is this ecosystem that you're trying to create that's sustainable. So now, before we dive into that, there's 2 words I want you to kind of expand on for all of us, is the idea of dignity and respect. As many of us who've been here during other initiatives that popped up when there were, childcare centers, orphanages, there was fires, there was food relief happening, there is very much an influencer gram culture here. And so you would see people who would go frontline, post for the sake of having, followers or whatnot, and then you wouldn't hear from them again. And there is this, concept that, back in North America and Europe, you can't just show up to an orphanage. You can't just show up to a hospital. And here, it's interesting because there's this sort of polarizing view of the fact that we do have access to help, but then also we need to be given access in a way that's respectful and being mindful of those that we're helping. And so one of the things that really struck me in coming to some of the efforts that you've done is how you instill dignity and respect even when it comes to distributions, how you have the kitchen as a gateway before people get involved in other initiatives. So if you could just expand on that a little bit.
Sure. So one of the most, I keep saying one of the most, there's so many important things that I take into consideration when it comes to any program that I run here. One thing is always respect for the people that we're giving the help to. We're not doing this in order to make it a show. We're not here to entertain the people who are coming to give. It's all about giving and connecting these 2 communities together in a way that is dignified, in a way that shows respect. So to that regard, it's, as you rightly said, the kitchen is a gateway that I kind of use in order to see who is coming from the heart and who is coming for, let's say, less... I don't know what to say.
Less genuine reasons.
Yeah, which is perfectly fine. Help is help at the end of the day. But if you're here to come and take a few pictures with kids and that's your one and done thing, that's not what we're about, right? If you want to do that, the kitchen's a good place to do it, because there you're not interacting with the kids, you're indirectly helping them, and you can get your few minutes of fame online by saying we have supported, right? And you can always tag us afterwards, and people can see afterwards through our content in terms of what you've helped with. When it comes to distributions, actually I have a massive one tomorrow. I have this CSR project tomorrow with 80 doctors from all over the world that are staying at Conrad Bali, and we're doing this big, massive food packaging session together. From those 80 doctors, they initially asked if they could all go and join on distribution, but I first toyed with the idea, but eventually, how do you say? Not shut it down, but changed it, because we don't want to compromise those kind of morals that we've set in terms of how distribution should be done. Basically, you should never outnumber the people you're giving to. So if there's a community of 20 people, 30 people should not show up in a bus to give the aid. Makes no sense. I always try to maximize the number of people that go to any community to help. Just one car, five people in the car with whatever donations you've brought. That's an appropriate number. It's not overwhelming. It's more intimate. It doesn't come across as a tour or as some sort of poverty tourism kind of thing, right? It also means it's more dignified for the people receiving, because they're always going to outnumber the people who are giving. So this is something that is firmly in the way we do any kind of operations. And for those who are part of, let's say, our WhatsApp group and see all the updates in terms of all the activities that we're doing, the max number to, let's say, visits to childcare center we have this week, where we're going to be baking with the kids and teaching them about nutritional breakfasts, maximum number of people to join is going to be 5. When it comes to the kitchen, by all means, if you want a group of 40 people to come, that's okay, because there's none of the recipients there. That's where we just prep the food. So this is why the kitchen is, again, like you said, it's a great gateway, because you can take that kind of first step into social work there, and then you can get to know more about what we do, and then from there see how more you want to get involved, right? But I think taking these steps is important, because showing up to an orphanage unannounced and just saying, here you go, and wanting some pictures, yes, it might seem like the kids are happy, and more often than not they are, but we've done interview with kids, and lots of them are also, well, annoyed by the fact that they have to entertain guests all the time at the drop of a hat, you know, like, oh, foreigners have come, we need to go sing and dance so they feel like they've done something. They're busy doing schoolwork. They're busy just being kids. They're just in their room. And imagine if, you know, you were, bring yourself back to when you were a teenager or a kid, and your house gets visited every 2 days by random people, and then your parents tell you, hey, come down and do a little dance or sing or like entertain them. You know, you would also eventually feel a little bit fed up. Yes, it becomes normalized. Yes, you might not get bothered by it, but it does something inside, right? The more you talk to them, peel back the layers of what these kids experience, they'll tell you the truth. The way we provide help is our daily meals go out, and yeah, sometimes there will be people who join, like from the volunteering community, but it's going to be a maximum, again, of 5 people. You're not going to stay too long. You're giving the food. If we do an activity that's really ingrained with the kids, again, we make sure that we never outnumber. It's all planned properly. It's all done in a way where it doesn't feel like it's about the social media, even though this is a very important tool, and yes, it's needed. It's not about this. It's about the actual interaction you're going to be having. Yeah, I hope that
that's great. So I think this actually would be a good opportunity, as we, you know, if we could maybe take a moment to highlight maybe one key thing from each initiative, to give a flavor to the audience in terms of what we do, and then we'll open up for Q&A a little bit later, and we can dive into some deeper questions. So let's start with the gateway, the kitchen, you know, and sharing. You know, we talk about, you have a team, and I've said to you before that, and you've said this, that, you know, if you are a table and you have 4 legs, or you have your left hand, your right hand, and your soul, who are the 4 legs that help you do what you do? Some of them are here today, and I want to just, you know, highlight them, because they're the ones who are also with you in the kitchen, and then let's move out from there.
Yeah, so, I mean, I mentioned it before, Ragam is by no means my charity, in the sense that it's me doing everything. I can't. It's impossible. I've tried sometimes. It's just really, it doesn't work. I wouldn't be able to be here today and even talk to you guys and have all the success that we've had over the last 3 years without, well, my incredible team. One of them is Ibu Nurul over there. If I'm the soul of Ragam, she's the heart, in the sense that she's the one that goes into the communities, finds all the people that need help, creates comprehensive databases in terms of, okay, this community needs these specific things for support, this community needs this. So we have a whole database of recipients that we help. Whenever we have any kind of donation, whether that's, I don't know, we get a lot of random stuff, I can always ask her saying, hey, we have this stuff, where should we send it to? And she'll reply to me within a few minutes saying, okay, let's bring it here, do this, 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 this. She's been like this her whole life. just giving and giving and giving, even though she has nothing financial to give. That's why she's such a perfect fit for this foundation, because as she has said to me many times, this has allowed her to also do her mission, which is help the community and people around her. And thanks to all the people who support us, she can do, similar to me, what we were kind of put here to do. It sounds, every time I talk about it this way, it sounds very spiritual, but I really feel like I'm doing what I'm here on this earth to do, right? I found my purpose. And going a little bit back to those moments of being lost and touching back on following the heart, sometimes I've regretted following my heart, but being able to sit here and talk to all of you, I don't regret a single moment anymore, because it all makes sense. You have that kind of moment where just like, oh, that's why I went through all of that shit. It's because of this. And I'm very blessed to have met her. Besides her, I've got a giant of a man called Wayan. For those of you who know him, you understand why I called him giant, because he's really big for Balinese. Every time I shake his hands, I feel so small. It's like these big baseball gloves that are just grabbing me. Anyway, I would say he's the muscle, she's the heart, and then my wife is somewhere.
She's working.
We started the foundation together. Oh, she's there. What? Where? Oh, she's literally outside.
Filming.
Behind the bars.
Dini, come on up.
Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sit here and do anything without also, of course, my mom, who puts up with, me every single day of her life. And Johan, yes, incredible young kid who actually comes from one of the orphanages. That's a whole other story to tell. But besides that, besides the core team, it's, again, all the volunteers that come through every day. All the people who show their support, whether that's through financial, in-kind, or just sharing about what we do. This whole foundation, again, yes, I'm sitting here talking to you about it now, but it's not about me. It's about bringing everyone together and trying to do good work from the heart, right? One thing that kind of has come up throughout these years of doing work is a quote by me. When we follow what drives our souls, we attract those who feel the same. And this is kind of how this whole foundation is still going. Is I keep on doing what makes sense to this inner voice here every single day, and it seems to make sense to other people, and that's how we're still able to do what we do, basically.
And I think, part of my mission, and I think our mission, is to help people be better so they can do better, and use compassion and giving back as a catalyst for change. And so allowing you to share really authentically and deeply and highlight some of the core members allows everyone here and those who are tuning in online, who are going to watch the recording after, to realize, hey, maybe that's a person I'm aligned with. Maybe that's how I want to get involved. And I do also say, for some of those from the audience who mentioned that they want to do, some community work and stuff on the island, there are incredible initiatives that exist here. And so not to pick one or the other, but I would encourage everyone to do their due diligence in terms of meeting with the founders. One of the things that really, I guess, aligned me and Nick was, I think on day 2 of coming to the kitchen, he sat down with me and showed me his annual report and talked about the board of directors, and was just so transparent with how things were being done and what was being done, that, I think that is sort of the effort that we want to see kind of going forward, and knowing that money is going exactly where it's been earmarked for. So on that note, let's dive into a couple of the initiatives. Sure. There's something that you had mentioned, and I know your mom's here, so she's a key part of this, is expand on 40, 40, 20 and Ball of Hope.
Okay. So the Ball of Hope program is something that was kind of pretty much started by my mother. It's just teaching women how to crochet. It sounds very simple, but the balls that we make earn these ladies more money than they would do if they were to do kind of daily work or hourly work at other places. It's work they can do comfortably at home. It's work that they can do whilst taking care of the kids. So far, they've made, I don't actually know how many balls, but quite a lot. And actually, 2 days ago, hopefully landed our first big CSR client, which is the group of doctors I actually mentioned before. So these balls with their logos on it, we were making them at Conrad itself. And every year, for every event they have moving forward, they will be ordering from us. So these women will have basically work in perpetuity. And besides that, we sell in around 13 different stores. But the main success about this whole program is it's completely self-sufficient, in the sense that it's the only program that doesn't rely on donations anymore. The sales from the balls goes 40% to the women, 40% goes to materials, 20% goes to the marketing. So the materials that we buy are also for the women. This way they don't have any costs, in the sense that they don't have to invest anything besides their time. I'm not a boss that's going to crack a whip and say I need 100 balls by tomorrow or by next week. It's really entirely up to them how much they want to make. So it also instills a sense of independence and entrepreneurship within them, in the sense of, like, okay, I want to or I need to earn more money, then I can put more time into making these balls. Again, a job they can do comfortably at home, a job that some of them have really taken to heart, to the point where they're watching YouTube tutorials and learned or taught themselves how to make bags, which they're selling to their friends, and it goes on like this. Our hope for this program is that it continues to grow, and that community of women also continues to grow. That's the whole purpose of every program that we kind of set up, is to eventually be self-sufficient. Other programs are going to be a bit more difficult due to the monetization things, like how do I monetize giving free food to people, right? But the way we kind of support that program, or the kitchen, is by setting up gardens, is by collaborating with other farms and other people who are doing things in agriculture or food, so that at least we can be zero cost when it comes to the ingredients. This way it's not completely self-sustainable in the sense of it's making money, but it's self-sustainable in the sense of it doesn't really cost as much besides the overhead expenses that we have.
And why a ball? Why a ball and not a purse or a teddy bear or a doll?
Every time I talk about this, I try to avoid making people's minds wander to other things. There can be lots of innuendos that can be taken from what I'm going to say. But everyone loves balls. Who doesn't love a ball?
I just said this for the soundbite that you're going to get after this. That's great.
In the sense that it transcends age, it transcends whatever you want. If you made a teddy bear, okay, it might be cute for you to buy as an adult as a souvenir for someone, but beyond that, you're not going to be playing with the teddy bear every day. But a ball, again, I can use this example of the doctors we made these balls for. These are grown professional doctors. As soon as they got the balls that they made together with the women that evening, yes, afterwards it was, it's a conference, so they had a few drinks, but all we saw at these big tables with all these professional doctors was balls being thrown across the table, being juggled, being played with, and it was just really nice to see. The balls we've distributed to centers with kids who have physical disabilities, so it helps them with their motoric function. Schools have bought them in order to use them in classrooms. Mental health care centers have bought them in order to be able to help with, like, okay, we'll pass the ball and then that person can talk. It's a ball, you can use it however you want. I have one in my room and I just bounce it against the wall when I need to think. So yeah, that's why we did a ball, is because it's a ball. We all know what that is.
Yeah. It's universal in its appeal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and so now let's shift to a couple of the other initiatives.
Actually, I have one little funny story. When we had these balls on display at one of these events or markets or something, one of the guys came and he picked it up and he read a little bit what it was about in terms of how it supports the program and the women. And he was like, "So what is this?" I'm like, "It's a ball." "But what can I do with it?" "What do you do with a ball?" He was just, because it was part of this social program, he was asking me these questions. Anyway, just I got reminded of that. It's a ball, If you want some, we are in the process of trying to set up a proper sales page, but they are in stores all over Bali. We should make a list and actually publish it somewhere, but they make a great gift for yourself or someone else, and you'll be supporting women and this amazing program.
So I know, anyone obviously can go on to Ragam's Instagram or their website for more information, but I think what would be really special is let's highlight some of the initiatives that are lesser known, and maybe one key thing from each initiative. And for those who are looking to either get involved or thinking about how in their own communities, whether it's other parts of Indonesia or it's in North America or Europe, things that they can do. So if you can maybe just highlight, let's talk a little bit about the kitchen and how, Johan is a part of that, maybe the scholarship program, as well as the food and the water distribution.
Okay, so we do a lot of different programs because I tend to dart around in my mind in terms of having endless ideas and things that I want to do. There's still a backlog of stuff that I need to start. I'll kind of quick fire through all the programs, kind of give you the gist of it so you have an understanding of what it's about. Kitchen is really about just feeding kids and people who are in need of food. The reason why this is important is, like I touched on before, we can't do anything without food. The gardens that we've set up are all about supporting the kitchen that we have, right? But besides that, it's also about educating kids about where their food comes from. So one of the gardens is actually set up at TPA Suwung, which is the large garbage dump. So the kids there, instead of playing in the trash, they can come to our garden, learn about farming, learn about, it's also a community center. We're going to be doing a baking class and bubur kacang hijau making class. For those who are not local, it's like a mung bean breakfast soup, which is sweet, class. So that's the garden initiatives that we have. Then the water filter program is directly related to Social Impact, another organization you might have heard of. So we are just partners that help them to distribute their CSR donated water filters to communities around the island, giving these people access to clean and free drinking water for at least 3 years. We have a scholarship program that's in collaboration with Indosol and CCS and Penny and a lot more sponsors. Right now we have 20 students that we're helping through high school and university. These students we also help with water filters. The mothers of these students are the women who are part of our Ball of Hope program. So one thing we also try and do is interconnect all the programs so that the support that we give to the people we help is not just one thing, one time, but in order to really make impact, it needs to be consistent and it needs to be multifaceted. You cannot just be like, here's your one thing and then I'm going to never see you again. It's okay, how can I support you in multiple different ways so that you don't have these burdens of cost, so you don't have these worries anymore, so you have these other opportunities, so that hopefully you can uplift yourself. So far, let's say the families that are part of the Ball of Hope program, the ones who are also being helped by the scholarship program are I would say it's going very well, in the sense that we're actually going to release a video soon where they're giving testimonies about how it's actually changed their life. So I'll stop there. Then we accept any and all clothing, toys, and other donations. We do pretty much everything. If someone comes to me with an idea, if anybody here in the audience has an idea of like, well, how about this? Or what if we do a program that does something that you might be personally interested in, whether that's art or music or whatever, come have a chat. That's how so many of these programs also started, with a conversation. I'm always happy to talk, always happy to figure out, okay, well, how can we make that idea into a reality that actually has consistent impact, right? What we're here to do is, I don't want charity work to be so limited and so restricted. And I know that's kind of contradictory to say in a country where technically, volunteering is a very black and white / gray area in the sense of how and what you can do. But there are ways around it. There's also ways you can support that don't infringe on those regulations. And it's all about finding a way that we can actually do something impactful together without, it being an issue. But I want to remove those barriers. I want to answer those questions that people have in terms of, why should I help? What can I do to help? Where can I help? Who can I help? What is the best way to help? If I don't have funds, can I still help? All these questions that people have that prevent them from taking that first step into charity work, we're here to address, right? And the best way to address that, especially with those who want to get started, just come to the kitchen one day, prove your worth by peeling a kilo of garlic, and then we'll have a conversation afterwards in terms of what more you might want to help us with, right? We're very open to any and all collaborations. It's, I'll say it again, it's not my charity, it's a charity that everyone can be a part of. It's supposed to be a community effort, and that's what it's been so far. And I hope that it will just continue to grow, and I hope that people will feel comfortable to want to give a little bit from the heart, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you mentioned as well, which I think is a key point for anyone who's tuning in online or here in the audience is wondering is as we talked about sort of one of the things we talked about, part of the highlights was obviously we were going to hear your story and obviously hear your heart, which is coming through beautifully, and also, navigating those challenges and bridging that gap with doing so within the regulations and the respect for the cultural norms that exist here. And I think, some people don't realize that volunteering is also a job and it requires a kitas, and that is technically taking away. So what Ragam and other initiatives have done is providing, it's a self-running organization, and having a kitchen where people can come and help allows you to do so in a way that's safe as a foreigner, whether you're visiting, whether you're living here. And then through that, there's already other initiatives, whether you're interested in food relief, if you're interested in water and ecosystem transformation, if you're interested in art therapy, in working with disabilities. These are channels that have been created in a safe and respectful way that people can get involved in. I think that is what makes Ragam so diversified and deep-rooted. So I do think that aspect of come to the kitchen, sit down, peel a carrot garlic. I don't even cook. My mom is so proud that I go to a kitchen and do this stuff. But it just allows for that conversation. So I do think that's an important note for anyone who's interested in getting involved, and make sure you're doing it knowing what the foreign, the regulations are.
Also, it's a great place to meet people. Like, I've seen friendships form at the kitchen. I've seen relationships form at the kitchen. Business partners have met at the kitchen. It's just a place where people don't have their guard up. Much like here, everyone's here for the purpose of understanding and trying to learn more about how to help. It's the same energy that's brought to the kitchen every single day. People go there all because they want to help make some meals. So when you're in a place where everyone has the same purpose, you tend to have more genuine conversations with the person next to you who's also being forced to peel a kilo of garlic. It's unifying.
And so I think this would actually be a great moment to open up for Q&A. I know there are some specific questions. I want to allow for that. So if we can have the mic passed around. Rob, do you want to start?
Cool, wonderful. So many things to ask, but one very quick question, which I think will get us started. So lots of foreigners here, when they move around, they have clothing, right? Their kids, my kids grow up, the clothes don't fit anymore, they're still perfectly good. So where can someone drop clothing and things like that?
So the kitchen location, basically. So this is really the heart of our entire operation, in the sense of we run workshops through there, but it's also strategically put kind of in the center. So Krobokan, meaning it's not too far from people who might be living in Sanur, Denpasar on that coast, not too far from people living in Canggu. I know there's traffic and that might, hinder things, but it's pretty much in the middle. We're really close to the prison, so if anything nefarious does go on, you can just go. I'm kidding. I have many terrible jokes that if you come to the kitchen, you'll hear. So we're always very mindful about doing things the right way, because I drive past the prison every single day. But no, clothing donations, any kind of donations. We've received beds, fridges. We collect donations from Finns Lost and Found very often. We get an absorbent amount of towels and selfie sticks. I don't know what to do with all these selfie sticks. We have so many. I've given so many away to our community, but I keep getting more. I'm like, I don't know what to do. If you need more sticks for more camera setup, I'd be happy to donate a few, because our stockpile is just growing and growing.
Yeah, we definitely do need some more sticks. Other questions? Raise your hands, please. All right, over here. Across camera, it doesn't matter. All good.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just tangenting.
I'm taking it.
First of all, before I ask Nick a question, I want to commend you, Bhavna, because it's one thing to have a really amazing guest, but it's another one to have a really amazing host in order to make up for, to make the most out of the guest. Yeah, so. And particularly, thank you very much for asking this question around dignity and respect when it comes to children, because it is a massive problem. I've lectured for 20 years in responsible tourism, and lots of people don't understand that there are things you do not do. And Nick, I commend you for having structures in place in order to protect those children. On the subject of children protection, mental health, young men are now killing themselves at an incredible rate. Would you be able to share with us an inspirational story of a young man whose life you might have changed through your different initiatives?
Sure. Before I go into the story of Johan, actually one of the employees that we have who's had quite a difficult life, I would also just like to say that men in general are a demographic that is often overlooked when it comes to the charity work and the charity space. So to all the men out there, it's, well, what can I say? we have to be tough. We have to make sure that we can take care of not just ourselves, but everyone else in our lives. And it can be quite a struggle. So we do support also a lot of men, especially the men that come in backgrounds that are, well, let's say the trash collectors and things like this. The reason why I focus on men a lot is because these men are usually working to help feed their families. So if they don't get fed themselves, they don't have the energy to do what they need to do as men in society. So thank you for bringing that up. Onto the person I would say we've impacted the most is Johan. Johan is one of part of our team. He is a sous chef at the kitchen. He's 17 years old now. He's been with us for the last 2 years, but his background is he was a street kid, basically. So he was on the street from 7 until about 14. He got picked up by an organization called Bali Street Moms, and they have been basically taking care of him since. When I talked to Kim from Bali Street Moms, I was told that they had a young boy called Johan. He was 14 at the time, and he really wanted to learn how to cook and basically become a chef. He also hadn't had formal education, so speaking and reading Bahasa was difficult for him. So it was difficult for him to kind of immerse himself within the kind of educational system that they had set up there. So he came to our kitchen. He started off being very shy, in the sense that he wouldn't look you in the eye. He would barely talk. He wouldn't really, he came out as a volunteer first, and he didn't really help out as much because he was very, again, closed. After a while, we got him to open up a little bit more, and then I told him that, well, instead of being a volunteer, why don't you become an employee? Come here every day. We'll work on your culinary skills. We'll get you... Actually, it was volunteers from our community that helped educate him in English and in Indonesian. Right now, I'm trying to teach him finance and accounting, because it's important to know when you're working in a kitchen. Because eventually our goal for Johan is that he can leave our nest, in a sense, and hopefully work in more professional kitchens. And he is now a very vibrant, for those who might have met Johan now, very smiley, strong young man who is the most stylish looking cook ever. He's always in the most amazing shoes and clothes and things that he gets from the volunteers that support him, or our community members that support him. Very confident, always cracking jokes. And yeah, I'm incredibly proud of him. And actually one of the programs that I'm working on at the moment is inspired by him, which is we want to try and set up a proper accredited curriculum that is about 2 years, that kids from his background can join our kitchen, get a checklist of things that they need to get done, whether that's culinary related, which is going to be the focus, but also English, language, and finance related, so that afterwards they can leave our program and have an official certification that they can then use in order to get a job. Because getting a job, even as a dishwasher in a restaurant here, requires usually a high school diploma. So even if you don't have a high school diploma, it's very difficult to find work. So it's an in-process thing, don't expect it to suddenly be here next week. It's kind of complicated, but we're trying to get it properly accredited with the collaboration with some universities, and hopefully also with the educational branch of the government, so that we have a proper program set in place for kids like Johan, so they can come, learn what they need to learn, and then actually have something to then, support themselves throughout their life. I hope that answers the question.
Next question. So good. Two. There you go.
Hi, Nick. First and foremost, I just want to say that your vision and dedication is inspiring. So my question to you is, I'd love to hear about some of your challenges for translating your on-the-ground experiences in these communities into effective advocacy for influencing policy change at a government level. So is there a relationship between your organization and the government of Bali in supporting and helping you support these communities?
I have a relationship with the social department, but in the sense of actually structuring any sort of meaningful change in terms of policy, no, not yet. I could go into a lot of detail now, but this is probably a better conversation off camera. I'm just being very honest. But yeah, I'd love to. If you look at the new presidency, they're focusing on a program that wants to feed kids in high school and in schools, right? It's the Feeding Kids program. I would love to be able to get in touch with people from the government in order to see what I can help them with, considering we have done this program for the last 3 years with Ragam, and then even before that when I was with SOS. Speaking a little bit about the kitchen, we used to do 5 days per week cooking, but we've shifted that to about 3 days per week now. The reason why is before I was really focused on quantity, I'm focusing more on quality now. I'd love to do both. But the quality has had a better reaction from the kids because they get more diversified food. But yeah, I know that now the government is more going in towards that direction. And there is actually, that was one of his major points, right, of, running. So for now, no, but I'd love to. I'm always open to collaborate with anyone, of course, including government, because that's the only way you can make meaningful, proper change at the real local level, is in collaboration with government. And we've done so before with disaster relief efforts and with for example, the big fires in Suwon. We were boots on the ground and delivering food every single day alongside the firefighters, alongside government officials there. But in terms of actual, let's say, long-term collaboration, like you mentioned, that has a more long-term meaningful impact, not yet.
Question, anybody? Yeah, over there. All right, I'm going to swing around this way and do what you shouldn't do, but it doesn't matter. Got it.
Yeah, hello Nick. I'm Shirley. I'm a founder of Kalasahan. I'm from Borneo too. Yep, in Maratua. I've been built this school 25 years, but I will love to learn more, seem you more expert on this because I doing this alone. I don't have experience about this, and I learning more about how to collaborate and seem you amazed you can share this because I'm a shy person. I don't know how to communicate to the person, so I can explain the kids there more need education to teach, and my focusing teach the kids in the island is speak English, and we have already 150 students, and at the moment I doing it alone, and I will love to learn from you. I appreciate.
Now, having known you for some time, you are a beautiful communicator. That's a lie you tell yourself. We can talk about that afterwards. You have a question? So just quickly, with the questions, not too much backstory, because then we can fit in more questions.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to listen to you. We're working on a big project ourselves, so that's why we're a bit slow. But what you just mentioned, I think this gentleman around the corner, if we could one day have a round table, because I think the more we can work with the different organization from government, what have you. I have a real deep government background from New Zealand and Europe. And once you can get into the right channels and you can turn it around, that's when you can start to get them to come on board. So I feel we as a team, and I feel there's others, if we can address that from that perspective, I think we can make huge.
I mean, I totally agree. Maybe when we meet, I'll share all the other programs that I have that are long-term impact, let's say. There's a lot up here. too much.
Okay, Nick, I want to ask you, in a sense that you are running a successful NGO in Yayasan here. Can you share just briefly what are the main challenges, or maybe?
Just go.
Yeah. So
Do you want to take this?
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. What is the main challenge of running an NGO like you do in this environment in Indonesia, in Bali here? And you explained a lot of things that you want to do in the future, realize in the future, doing even more of what Ragam is already doing now. What is the challenge you need to overcome to be able to realize it?
It's a good question. One of the challenges for most NGOs that are kind of starting up like we are, I mean, I would still consider us relatively new. 3 years is, I mean, we've done a lot, but it's not that long of a time. One main challenge we have is always finding funding and sponsors and donors to be able to continue each program. I grow each program very consciously. So my personal challenge has been not, and I would say this is a challenge that lots of charities face when they start up, is don't set your own expectations too high. It's in the sense of don't immediately shoot for the moon. You need to progressively grow. So the way I've grown this charity is consciously and step by step. I could have scaled up to 1,000 meals per day, but I didn't because I knew that I wanted to be around for a long time. And I will always make sure that operation reflects funding and current support that we have. So one of the big challenges is not doing it all from my side. Not putting all the funding that I have into every program that I have and go like, okay, let's go. It's being aware that some things you need to put on the back burner because it might not be the right time. It's being aware that, okay, as much as I'd love to support all the kids that we support every single day of the week with highly nutritious meals, I cannot. I cannot do both quantity or quality, right? So it's making these decisions that mean that you cannot do as much as your heart wants to do, but you have to make those decisions because it's more important to be able to do it for years than to do it for 3 months and go, well, shit, now what, you know, and then shutting everything down, because eventually things will grow. And that's what I've seen over the years, is everything has been growing slowly. I've had programs on my mind since year one that I only started this year, right? Because it finally made sense. I had the right network, I had the right contacts, I had the funding, I had the experience. So I was like, okay, now I can start to, I put it in a metaphor in the sense that my brain is like a kitchen. There are things that are on high fire in the front of my mind that are burning, and they're not burning, that are cooking and working. And then there are things in the background that are on a low simmer, just there, still bubbling away, but not coming to the front yet. So that's been a personal challenge, is not wanting to do or being able to do everything up here. But the main one is what most charities face, is funding. It's always making sure that you have consistent funding to be able to keep going. It's getting better. I mean, we're still here for a reason, but that consistent support, or knowing that there is X amount of money coming in every month, gives you a better sense of security and allows you to do more, right? This is not me trying to tell people to donate. It's just, please donate though. But but it's the reality, right? Like it's needed. It's needed for that sense of security. When I started, the main challenge was, who do I feed? Like, which places do I start with? Because everyone could use a meal. And by everyone, I mean, there's a lot of people on this island that could use support. Right now, maybe I shouldn't go on too many tangents. But I'll just keep it by saying, like, okay, right now the people we support are all in the south of Bali, right? People that are close, because vicinity, in my experience, has a lot to do with people's willingness to help. You know, if something is an hour away, okay. If something is 5 hours away, do I really want to help? Becomes a bit of a nuisance, right? This is what we've seen a lot. Right now we're trying to expand more north with some of the programs slowly, but this is another challenge that I faced, in the sense of, okay, how can I hopefully motivate and inspire people to want to go and do a little bit extra, you know, spend a little bit extra time. Maybe don't binge watch a few episodes on Netflix and just come join us on a trip and do something, right? And again, I'm not trying to saying this to make people feel bad, but I can also completely understand that you're dealing with people's comfort zones. I'm kind of losing the plot. Challenges has always been finding proper funding and then also managing your own expectations so that you are sustainable. Every program we have is consciously kind of designed to try and support one another and connect with one another. This way, each program can grow kind of codependently. So if I get funding for one, I always make sure I talk to the donors and see if I can get X amount of that funding earmarked to help the whole foundation in general. So let's say 60% goes to one program, 40% goes to the rest. And that way each program has these fundraising events and they all kind of support one another to grow slowly. But I'd love to do more. So if anyone has $1 million, I can change a lot.
So, quick question. So, on the show, we've had... So, Bo is a friend. Bo Holmes, you know. Who else is there that pops into mind?
DJ.
Yeah, Marg, Barry, Bali Children's Foundation.
Yep.
And there was one other that was just there. It will come back at some point.
I mean, I also know DJ and Bim Bim.
Yeah, and
all, very well.
All of these guys, right? So, the question is, you know, if there's someone in the audience now, yeah. And I see many people here, and I see people. I look around at people, and I look at their faces, right? And some are really, everyone's engaged, but some you get the sense want to take action, right? Yeah. So I guess the two-sided question is: number one, if someone wants to take action and set up their own foundation, yeah. What would the steps be for you? Passing on to them so they have the next step to make. Sure. Then the second half of that question, like the other coin on the other side, if it's true that with these foundations, the limit and the point of expansion is that of the founder. Right? So in other words, if the founder has reached a personal ceiling, it's pretty tough for that foundation to go beyond it, and vice versa. So the second half to the question then is, like, what do you do to keep yourself in an energetic state? Because there's so much out there, right? 300 people you fed, another 200 waiting saying, what about me? Right? So I can think of multitude of situations that you live every single day. So how do you keep your own state of mind throughout this journey? So once again, the first question is, first side of it is, for those people wanting to do something like what you've done, what are the steps? Maybe 3. Sure. The second half of it is, how do you keep yourself energized, grounded, at your optimum if you can, to ensure that the limit isn't you anymore? Yep. Yeah.
I would say, to answer the first question, I'll try to condense it into 3 steps. For me, step number 1 is really your own personal motivation. In the sense of, I'll answer this question with a little bit of a tangent. I get lots of interns that come from all over the world to help Ragam. I always tell them the same thing: I can teach you and show you anything you want, but I cannot teach you to be motivated to do charity work. That is something that comes from within, right? It's something I cannot teach. I cannot give you a metric in terms of caring for others. It's innate. And I feel like everyone has that to a certain extent. And we're here to try and actualize on that and allow people to share that energy, but it has to come from within. So if you want to start an initiative, be sure you want to start it, and don't be shy about it, in the sense of, like, really feel it, live it every single day. Like it's I'm going to use kitchen analogies again. For me, it's like a constant fire kind of burning. And yes, it has its low points, of course, but it's there. And if you keep it on, if you keep fanning that flame, you'll be fine. So number 1, if you want to start something, really want it. And I think that's across for business as well, right? It's, if you step into things half-hearted or like not sure, or like, you know, the general expression, 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out, chances are it might not go as you expect. If you just go for it, you'll be surprised of how much you can do. And I'm sure you can relate to that as well. Number 2 for us here was, well, we wanted to make sure that it was all legal. So we made sure that it's very important to me. We respect the country we're in. So everything has a legal board. It's a legal registered charity. And on the list of what kind of activities do you do, I just checked every single box on the list, so that if I ended up doing something completely random, it's like, oh, but it's checked under the box. So that's number 2, very important here. Not just for doing work, but also more for yourself. You don't want to feel like at any moment, something can happen and you might get shut down. It's not a nice feeling. As someone who's my whole life has been worrying about doing something and I get kicked out of the country I grew up in because I'm not a resident, it's always on my mind. So that was step number 2 for me. Make sure everything is copacetic legally. Number 3 is, you have to start somewhere, but make sure, kind of touching on the point I made before, is set realistic expectations for yourself and for what you want to do. When I started, I wanted to do so much. There's still so much in my head I haven't even talked about. We could be here for literal hours. But I know that, again, finding that right time, right opportunity, right connections, right people will happen, and believing that it will happen is also very important. So going into this kind of work, and again, you can apply this same kind of advice, I guess, to business, is try not to do everything from the start. Try to do the things you can do, you can manage, that you are capable of. Never stop believing in that purpose and that drive that you have. And you'll be surprised how many people you'll meet along the way that feel the same way, right? That connect with you, that resonate with you. You'll be surprised that, okay, I haven't talked about some of the programs, but I'm sure if I talk to you about one of the programs I have in mind, that it will just click. I have that feeling already, right? But it's something I don't talk to everyone about because, sometimes it doesn't make sense, or it's not the right time or place or person. So I know I kind of went over the 3, but those are, I would say, the 3, right? Is really be true to yourself in terms of what your motivation is. Do things legally, especially in the charity space, but it's also important in business and everything. You don't want to lose everything based on a bureaucratic blunder. That's just sad. And then number 3 is manage your expectations, in the sense of, like, when you start, you really feel like you want to do everything. And you have this huge desire to just go and go and go. But you need to make sure that you can still keep going and keep that up for the next year, for the next 2 years, for the next 3 years. So if you burn yourself out in year 1 and beating your head against the wall because trying to make things happen that just don't seem to be the right time to make it work, I'll bring it back to Bali. I'm sure that some of you feel or have experienced the kind of Bali energy, in the sense of, like, you cannot force things into existence here. Things will happen when they happen. Things will happen when you meet the right people to make that happen. It's all about just waiting patiently for that time. To add on before I go to the next one, there are 5 words I live by every single day. It's the 5 S's that kind of reflect any moment in your life. Try and remember them. I don't know, it helps. Number 1 is santai, which means relax. It's always important to remember to relax. You can get very worked up in this life, in your own work, in your own drama. So just remember to relax. We're on a beautiful island after all. Sabar, number 2, which means be patient, especially with the traffic here. The only thing that can make me frustrated. Sorry. But yeah, patience. With patience, it's really reflected in terms of be patient with yourself and with what you want to do, to make sure you do it at the right time. Semangat, stay spirited, stay positive, stay energized. Make sure that, just semangat. For those who are local, you can understand. For those who aren't, it's staying spirited. It's keeping that fire going. Senyum, don't forget to smile. It's some days will be difficult, some days will be hard, but try and think of something that you're grateful for at the end of the day. You'd be surprised the list that you can come up with, even on the worst of days. And finally, this is not really an Indonesian word, but because we're in Bali, suksema. Always remember to be grateful, right? And these words are things that keep me in check and keep me going, especially sabar. I use that every day in traffic. But So going on to the next question, which was...
But you answered that. You gave me the 5.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you something real quick, because I think it's going to be helpful to other people.
Sure.
So a long time ago when we first got here, I won't mention the name, but it was a group that was trying to bring together all of the charities in Bali.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it failed. It failed at the end of it, but not for right. We won't go there. So my question is twofold again. One is, one thing that came up was this: I'm really spirited and I want to start something, right? I come here and it's an expat mentality of, I see a problem with plastic, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to create a charity, right? So it's like this: collaborate, or duplicate, right? So duplication is me going, right, I'm going to set up a charity and I'm going to do it. After 1 or 2 years, it falls over. Collaborate is saying, well, hang on a second. Is there someone else doing this already, which I can support, right? And then perhaps through that, I might partner with Nick on another project, which leads us in a different direction, but it's full power because it's full collaboration, right? So that's the first part. The second part, you have like Malati, right? Wason. Youthopia is about how do you create other change makers like her. She did Bye Bye Plastic Bags, for those who don't know, and her sister Yasmin. So then the second part of the question is, like, would you be prepared as Ragam to join forces with other charities or foundations in the future? So that's a two-sided question. Over to you.
I mean, we already do collaborations with lots of different organizations. It's also one of the reasons I started Ragam is I wanted to hopefully create a foundation that was, and I'm going to be Dutch and blunt here, devoid of ego. One thing that is preventing lots of great work from being done on this island is unfortunately ego. It's I should be the one doing it. And, I'll say it again, this is not my charity. It's a charity for people to join. And I repeat this over and over because I want to make that clear that it's for anyone to be a part of and to do something with, right? That's why I chose the name. That's why this concept is the way it is. Because I saw that general disconnect. I was, I lived through that thing that you mentioned.
I knew you had.
I was there behind the scenes. I'm always behind the scenes everywhere. Learning and observing and making sure I can do better. But the whole point is collaboration. Like our water filter program is only there because we collaborate with social impact. The farms that we get ingredients from, we're not just getting ingredients from them, but I'm also making sure that they get more buyers and suppliers so that they get supported. So they say, has anyone heard Astum Karaway? So like I'm trying to make
sure... They were on the show 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah, there you go. I'm trying to make sure that as many of our kind of bigger supporters and donors, let's say like Alila Seminyak and other people that we have in our support network, buy rice from them instead of from normal supplier, right? And I encourage anyone here today, I'm going to do a shameless plug. If you want to donate anything to our kitchen ingredient-wise, instead of buying rice at the market and then giving it to us, as much as that's of course still helpful and I'll be grateful, why not buy rice from Astum Karaway, which means your dollar doesn't just help us feed kids, but it also helps a regenerative rice project. It helps them to empower farmers. So you're helping the entire chain of rice, right? From farmer all the way to kid who eats it, who ends up getting a better nutritious meal. So every kind of project and program that we have in Ragam has collaboration in mind. And when people approach me, undoubtedly some people will approach me today, if I cannot help you directly, I will send you, and even if you have deep pockets and you want to help, I'm not going to try and hold you, be like, oh, I'll try to think of something and try to get your money. No, you'd be perfect for this person who's doing that already. Please go and talk to him and I'll even introduce you. We'll set up a meeting, and we've done that before. Because I feel like that's the whole point, right? It's your charity. I guess one of the main, going back to those 3 steps in terms of what's important, is remember why you're doing a charity. You're not doing it for your own ego. You're not doing it for your own self-interest. You're not doing it for, making your own foundation bigger and better. Yeah, those things help, of course, especially if you want to grow your own sense of like purpose and what you want to do in life. But ultimately, you're there to help others. And if helping others means that you don't help yourself through a contact or something that you've made, then that's the obvious choice you need to do. So that was the second part, right? First part was...
No, but you answered it. It's all good.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Okay, so I think, there's something that's come up a few times and you keep mentioning it, that you're like, I don't want to make people feel bad, or I'm going to plug this. And I want to just address that because part of this conversation is to share your story, amplify your voice, and through the context of Ragam, but also for people who are listening in the audience or online, whether they're inspired, whether they're impacted, or whether they start to question a notion that they had. And you can only make people feel bad if they feel bad about themselves. So at this point, I think it's, you're sharing some of the truths and the realities and some of the things that drive you and help people sort of navigate that. And I think, we even talk about the idea of donors and financial commitment and the organic rice farm. I think there are people who have the time, but not the means, and who want to contribute. There are people, so they're the ones in the kitchen at times, peeling carrots and onions. There's also people potentially overseas who are watching who have the means, but not the time. And so as you talked about that, your yayasan is like a startup. And with that, there is seed money and there is money that's involved in terms of paying your staff, dollars that are being earmarked for certain donations, if it's for rice or if it's for a scholarship program. But there's also the cost of running the business and allowing it to sustain itself. And so I wouldn't shy away from if someone out there is like, you know what, I do want to help. I'm aligned with this mission. How can I do so in a monetary way? And there is something really beautiful in that. So just want to get ahead of that. I do want to, at this point, allow us to wrap up. We could probably have multiple episodes and multiple topics. But I just, want to give you an opportunity to share sort of any final words you have for anyone who is listening to your story and thinking about how they want to contribute, or any watch-outs that you may have, and any final words you'd like to leave us with today.
I mean, I've said my 5 S's already, which is how I usually end my speeches. I would just say, please feel free to have a chat. That's how this entire foundation has kept going and growing. Is I'm open to have any conversation with anyone about anything. It's the whole purpose of it. I'll make the time to have a chat. My WhatsApp number is circulating everywhere. I'm the one who's answering the DMs in Instagram, and as well as the email. So just get in touch if you want to help, if you want to be a part of it. Don't be shy. Don't let the title of founder scare people away. I'm just a guy trying to bring people together to do good things. And good things can only happen if we have a conversation. So those are my final words. Also to everyone online, just reach out. I'm always happy to have a chat.
And how can they reach you?
We have our Instagram at Ragam Foundation. I'm sure my WhatsApp is on there. And then we have an email called yayasanragam@gmail.com. Our website is under maintenance, as it has been for the last year, because I just keep forgetting about it. But we'll get it. We'll get it there. If anyone wants to help with anything website related, I'd be happy to, because I have no idea what I'm doing. But no, in all seriousness, I'm just very thankful for everyone who came here tonight, for those who are watching. My final words is just let's have a chat and let's see what we can do together. Let's be Ragam.
And thank you. So with that, just a few final words. I want to just take a moment to thank everyone here in the audience. We're a talk show. We're a talk show style podcast. We're a community space. And I think one of the most special things about this is having people that when we look out, they're there, they're smiling, they're acknowledging, they're asking questions. And part of my approach is asking certain things and making our guests feel comfortable and vulnerable enough to share, which also then plants the seed in the mind of the audience members to feel permission to ask a question. And that creates such a different dialogue and dynamic. And without those faces, it would be a very different experience. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time and, bearing with the Canggu traffic to be here. So thank you all for giving us your beautiful energy. And then secondly, I want to thank our incredible Tropical Nomad team. Without them, we wouldn't be here doing what we're doing. We wouldn't have this platform in terms of sharing both in person and online. So thank you to the Tropical Nomad team for doing what you do best. And I want to thank Rob. So there are many of you, I think, who are maybe new to coming to the show. And you may not be aware, but SpeakuP's been running for almost 5 years now. We're episode 461. And it is every Monday, rain or shine. And that is because the founder and host, Robert, is here every Monday, rain or shine. And it has evolved over the years from, deep dives into technical talks, into health. But the whole purpose actually began because in Robert's personal network, many, many years ago, there were 3 individuals who took their life. and it came as a surprise. And so, as some of you may know, Monday is the highest rate of suicide. So to have a place that people can come to, whether you're a traveler passing through, whether you live here, whether you want to connect and build community, or you just want to hear a story, this is why this is created. And thank you, Rob, for giving me an opportunity to bring up people whose story I want to amplify. So thank you so much. Thank you. And lastly, to my guest, Nick, I know I've said this before, I really believe in who you are as a human and your heart, and I think more and more people can benefit from hearing that, all the raw, unfiltered conversation. So thank you for agreeing to be here and to sharing your heart, sharing your mission, sharing your story of Ragam, and most specifically yourself. And I think that is the biggest thing that we can do, is we all walk away feeling either inspired, impacted, challenged, and just connected. And with that, humanizing what Ragam Foundation is. So thank you so much for allowing me to have you here. Thank you. Thank you.